people will write me an email, like, a young person write me an email like, hey, can we get together for coffee? And then I won't respond just to see if they'll write me again, right? And because like there's something in that, right? Like I would write my mentors probably 20 times until I got a response.
I showed up like a stalker to a
Yeah.
restaurant.
We would find out, like this one guy I want to get in touch with, I called his landline like 20 times. He wouldn't pick up. Then I found out where he was speaking in New York City. And then I went there and I just was like, afterwards I was like, hey, what's up, And he became the head researcher of one of my big projects. And so I think that, I think the resilience and never giving up, the sort of the is something, the persistence is something that sports has taught us. And I think that, we can all be so sort of timid at times to continue reaching out again. Like my best friend Max, when I first started hanging out with him, well, he was 22 at the time. I was 32.
Friend,
Yeah, he's our best friend. Okay, sorry. Our best friend, Max. He was 22, and we were 32. And we met him on a vacation, and he would, when he came back to New York, he would just text me all the time. He would say, hey, you want to hang out? And I was like, no, I don't want to hang out with 22-year-old kid. No thanks. But then he just kept texting me over and over again, being like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood.
I just kept showing up, first person at the party,
and
last person to leave.
Yeah, and he just would show up all the time.
Contributing.
And then finally he came to one of our parties, and we realized how smart and thoughtful and interesting he was, and he's now our best friend, So I think that perseverance is something that we aren't often taught, and it's just keep going after it. And especially as women, we're so empathetic that in some ways our empathy becomes our fuel for fear, right? Empathy becomes fuel for fear because when we care so much about what someone else thinks, right, it stops us from actually wanting to step on anyone's toes. I don't want to bother them again. I don't want to, and if you just take on that attitude, you're never going to get to where you want to go.
And the worst that happens is rejection, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think because, again, we had each other, and this is why I wrote a book called Belong. It's all about finding your tribe and creating community. When you have a tribe that connects, that supports you, right, and that really makes you feel safe and that gives you wings, you don't feel weird reaching out to people because you already have friends. Like, yeah, I called this guy, didn't respond. What are you gonna do? And then Nikki would be like, oh, call him again, or call her again. And so you have friends and community members who are there to build you up when you're sort of down. So I think step one in anything that you do in life, like no matter what it is, whether it's a business, whether it's just anything sort of related to something that's difficult, is to start first with finding your tribe, finding your community, building your people. First, I spent 5 years building my tribe, really developing and deepening my tribe, my community, who then when I launched our very first Daybreaker, that December 10th, first snowfall in New York City in 2013, everybody could have slept in. They could have been like, nah, I'm not going to that thing. But everyone showed up. We had 200 people who showed up to our very first event because they were my friends and they cared about me, and I had nurtured those relationships. And so that's the first baseline layer to anything that we do in life, is first put down your computer and go meet your friend for that drink. Go meet your friend for that dinner, because you just can't even imagine how in the moments that you need them, how much they'll be there for you. And particularly if you're starting a business, it is so deeply critical too to have that those friends that you can be like, oh, I went to this investor and he said no to me, and instead of it taking you into a downward spiral, you have friends that lift you back up again, So I can't even say that enough. It's the most important thing that we can do, is to find your tribe and feel a sense of belonging.
At the time, nobody wanted to talk about periods. Not a single press wanted to talk about it. America's not ready to talk about this, Mickey. That was what I got every single day in 2013, 14, et cetera. And it was really, really, really hard. And so in 2015, we had scaled the business enough digitally that we wanted to launch our first out-of-home campaign, our first Subway advertisement. And we were so excited. My team spent weeks sleeping under their desks, designing these incredible campaigns, and we ran up against an issue, which was the New York City public transit system officials basically said that they could not publish our ads in the subway because of the word period, and they said people the people in the subway will be offended by it. It's offensive to riders, and we were like, interesting, you said that, and oh no you didn't. And it was a powerful moment that, you know, in the rest of the world periods are so taboo. In Nepal, women are still sleeping outside. They're like, because if they sleep inside their homes on their periods, then snakes will come eat their dads, literally, or the husbands. That's literally still happening. And so, you know, the fact that in the most progressive city in the world, New York City, we could not put the word period in the subways was really like, wow. It really brought this sort of this
Why, like
conversation.
grapefruits could be put on, you know, your breasts. Like there's so many other sort of breast augmentation ads, so many other sort of very sexual ads that could be on the subways, but not periods.
Yeah, it was really crazy. Like, so there was such a you know, double standard. You know, you can use grapefruits to represent augmented breasts, but you couldn't use it to represent a woman's part. That, you know, every single human is here because of that important time of the month. Not one woman could be here without that important nutrients to feed the baby as we're in utero. So the fact that it's considered taboo is crazy. And so we decided, instead of just slinking away to, you know, and put away this idea of doing New York City subway campaign, we were like, fuck it, we're gonna go fight it. And we put out we basically sent an email out to all press, which when we threatened the New York City public transit system, we were like, we're gonna go to press. And they were like, go ahead. And we were like, you called my bluff. I don't know any press. Shit. And so I found 2 contacts in press that
I'll never
knew.
forget this. Mickey and I were DJing that night. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We were DJing a party that night, some nonprofit party, whatever. And Mickey was like, oh my God, they wrote me back. I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, I put subject line scandal.
New York City scandal.
New York City scandal, and sent it to all this press and media. And one of them wrote her back, and I remember she was like on her phone. We're like in the middle of like a DJ set, and she's like, "Holy shit! Someone wrote us back." And I remember being like,
and it was
oh
so funny because Forbes and Mike.com both wanted the exclusives. At the time, I was still like, you both can have the exclusive. And they were like, that's not how it works. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, no one's paying me money, so what are you talking about? Like, what? I didn't even know. Like, I thought exclusive meant they would pay you money to, I don't know. So I got actually in trouble because I gave them both the exclusive. And eventually, Forbes backed down, and Mike.com took the story, and it went viral internationally. And I will never, ever forget the moment where, you know, it's like the way I think about it is when you're in the subways, like you see those people like singing music and playing the guitar, and like people are throwing like change at them. You know, I felt like we were singing our hearts out, trying to create this product. And, you know, I'll never forget when I was like walking down Bedford Avenue in Williamsburg when, after the story went viral, and I was walking down the street and I ran into this Indian guy named Shyam and his 2 like super trendy, cool like Indian nieces from India. Like they're both like, just fabulous. And Shyam was like, oh, Mickey, tell my nieces what you're working on. And I was like, yeah, it's this period-proof underwear company called Thinx. And both these women were like, wait a minute. And I was like, what? They both pulled out their phones, and literally they were both on separate WhatsApp text threads with all their girlfriends, and they were all talking about Thinx. And I remember that moment. I was just like,
this has gone viral.
I just remember like imprinting that moment, and just like I like teared up, and they're like, what's going? And I was like, wow, that's great. Of course, thanks. And it was like I didn't say that. I was just like, wow, it. Like in my head, I was trying to be cool, but actually, what came out was not. Anyway, I was just so incredulous, and I will never forget that moment. It was like I felt like someone heard my song and they were singing it, and like they were singing along, and you're just like, it was. And then from that moment, we just took off.